Duress and necessity are two other defenses. Duress occurs when a person forces another person to commit what would otherwise be a crime. So the key here in duress is it's a person, a human being, who is forcing someone to do a crime. A classic example would be a bank robber comes into a bank, points a gun at a bank teller, demands that the bank teller turn over money or else he or she will die. The bank teller turns over the money to the bank robber, but the bank teller will not be charged with a crime because the bank teller wasn't a co-conspirator, wasn't an accomplice. The only reason the bank teller turned over the money was because they had to decide between their life or the money, and society says, turn over the money. Your life is not worth less than the money that you turned over. Now, normally if a bank teller would hand over money to a customer and that money did not belong to the customer, then that could be some kind of crime. But obviously the only reason the bank teller was turning over the money to the bank robber was because a gun was pointed at his or her head and they felt that they had to do it. So we're not going to charge the bank teller with a crime. So this is a classic example of duress, when someone forces you to do something that would otherwise be criminal, but we're going to excuse your behavior because you only did it because of the harsher choice. In our example with the bank teller, that you would be killed if you didn't turn over the money. So if you were outside the bank and you were just sitting in your car, you had no involvement with the bank robbery, and the bank robber came out and jumped in your car and again pointed a gun at your head and said, drive or else. If you drive that bank robber away, you're not going to be guilty of a crime, assuming that you have not conspired with the bank robber to do this. Necessity is similar. Necessity, though, differs in one important way from duress, in that it's not a person who's forcing you to do something, it's nature. So maybe it's a storm, it's a blizzard, it's a hurricane, it's something that's causing you to take action that would have otherwise been criminal, but you needed to take that action. Otherwise, perhaps you would have died or suffered some other kind of serious injury. So let's assume that you're out in the middle of Montana, no help in sight, and your car breaks down in the middle of a blizzard. You happen to see a cabin that could provide some warmth and save you from freezing to death. So you break into that cabin. It's unoccupied. No one's there to let you in. You break into it. You're not going to be guilty of a crime for breaking into the cabin. Now, maybe you'll have to pay for any damages that you cause, but as far as any kind of criminal prosecution against you, you're not going to be charged, because we would say that breaking into the cabin was the lesser of two evils. We wouldn't want you to have to stand outside the cabin, make the choice to die rather than to break the law. So we're going to excuse your behavior in that instance. We should actually say we're going to justify your behavior in that instance, to say that it was the lesser of two evils to break into the cabin. Now, one important point to make before we leave duress and necessity is that neither duress nor necessity can justify killing another innocent person. So if you can imagine a situation like in the movie Saw, where in the movie they're always putting people in difficult situations and making difficult life and death choices. If some maniac came up to you and kidnapped another person, and strapped a bomb to the other person and gave you the detonator and told you that if you didn't push the plunger to blow up the bomb that was around the other person's body, that you would be killed. If you decided to blow up that bomb and kill the other person to save your life, you cannot claim duress. You cannot say, well, I had to kill that other person or I would die. Under the law, that other innocent person's life is not worth less than yours. You've got a difficult choice to make, but you may end up facing criminal prosecution if you decide to kill that other person to save your life. We saw that in the Dudley and Stevens case with the shipwrecked sailors on the high seas. Eating the cabin boy was not justified. His life was not worth less than the sailors, even though it allowed them to live. So again, duress and necessity cannot justify killing another innocent person.